receive them in the mail. Something else that I want you to be aware of are the counterfeit check scams. There are a lot of counterfeit checks going around today as well as money. But now we're going to talk about these counterfeit checks. At a glance, even a teller doesn't realize that these checks are counterfeit checks. The other thing is that, and there are a lot of counterfeit money orders going around as well. I just talked to someone a couple days ago that had sold something on eBay, and they received a money order for that purchase of that particular item they were selling, and the money order was a counterfeit or fake money order. So now they've given away what they were selling. They gave it away. They didn't sell it because they got a counterfeit money order. The other thing is, have any of you, the question I have is simply this, have any of you in this room ever received a check in the mail from someone that you weren't familiar with? Or from a business that you weren't familiar with? Raise your hand. Come on now, even I've received one, right? If you haven't, you may in the future. One of the other things that I want you to pay very close attention to if you happen to get one in the mail, doesn't matter how much it's for. It could be for $3.25, might be for $50, maybe for $12, or maybe for $100. It doesn't matter the amount. You have to look at the fine print on the check. Because oftentimes what you've also just done by cashing that check, and it tells you in the fine print on the back that you've just enrolled yourself in a service and your account, or there will be $139 or $89 or $59 deducted from your checking account every single month. We get the complaints all the time. I saw one, and that particular complaint that I received, the individual was having $139 taken out of their account every single month as a result of simply cashing that check. And the check was for a very small amount of money, by the way. So we have to be careful, okay? If you don't know who the check has come from, don't cash it. And even if you receive a check in the mail and you think it's from someone that you should be getting a check from, contact them and ask them why. If they don't give you an explanation as to why you're receiving it, call them and ask them why you're receiving that particular check, and make sure that it's actually coming from that person that you may have done business with. Looks like Richie has some examples.
Show this to Angela as well, and I will have these so that you can see them. We received from some of our residents, because of all these scams, I have $500 denominations of traveler's checks that when I talk to their Bureau of these scams and fraud, these are so clean and so real with all the embossed, all the watermarks, everything, but they're all fake. And they're in $500 denominations, and they don't make them $500 denominations. So we'll have these so that you can see what these look like. Also, Walmart money orders. When I took these to the personnel at Walmart and met with management as well as their corporate offices, the numbers on the Walmart money orders had been stolen internally and reshipped out. So when they ran back through, they first initially came back as clear, and then when they checked it in the system, it had already been cashed, which meant the person who cashed the checks are then out of the money that they've been offered and rendered to. So these are very real, and they look so pristine and clear. So you get a chance to see these. This is what this is in real life. When you get these type of things in the mail, because both of these came in the mail.
And I'm looking at them, ladies and gentlemen, and I can't tell. They look very real. So please take a look at those. Thank you so much, Richie. The other thing, there's another one called the class action settlement scam. How many of you have ever received a letter in the mail about a class action lawsuit? Raise your hand or settlement. A lot of us have. But there's something different about this class action lawsuit or this particular scam. If you look at it, it says legal affidavit, fine, it says urgent, but it says secrecy and urgency, gag order, enclosed check, call immediately. What's wrong with that? Can anybody tell me? Number one, guess what? A class action lawsuit, ladies and gentlemen, is public information. So why should there be a gag order, and why should it should be kept secrecy and urgency? Why should that be the very first thing that they ask you to do? They want you to act immediately and keep it secret. Don't tell anybody. But they're enclosing a check. When you first receive notice of a class action lawsuit, you don't get a check. That's not how it works. So if you ever receive something like this in the mail, please don't cash the check. Because once you cash that check, just like the other scam we talked about earlier, the lottery winning scam, you're out of that $2,975. And someone else is $2,975 richer. Okay? So just because you get it in the mail or you get a phone call, it sounds official, doesn't mean that it is. Another advance fee scam, and any scam where you have to send money before you get something, those are all considered to be advance fee scams. How many of you have ever heard of the Nigerian scam before? Raise your hand. Almost everybody. These have been around for years. You might receive a telephone call. You may receive an email message. You may even receive a letter in the mail stating that you have this distant relative that lives in another country who has just inherited some huge sum of money. And in order for you to get your portion of that inheritance, they need you to do something first, like send them money. And they want you to wire that money to them. Or they want you to open up that bank account to put that money into. And then share the information with them, of course, so they can take it out. And you'll never see a dime of it ever again. There was actually a county treasurer in the state of Michigan, in Alcona County, Michigan, who we caught, who literally became a victim of this particular scam. But there were two problems. Number one, he invested $250,000 of the taxpayers' money. So that's why we became involved, the Attorney General's office. And the other thing is he invested $72,000 of his own money into a Nigerian check scam, thinking that he was going to get a lot of money back as a result of his investments. And he probably assumed that he would have made the money back that he invested from the city, as well as additional monies, and no one would have ever noticed that the money was gone to begin with. So ladies and gentlemen, if you get a phone call from that distant relative, if you get an email message with someone claiming that they are a distant relative or someone that's in trouble and they need your help, or if you get that letter in the mail, please don't just send someone money. I know that especially today, it doesn't matter what our situations are from a financial standpoint. Sure, I could always use extra money. I've got a daughter in college, I've got one that graduated, and I have a granddaughter now. And you know, I'd like to retire, but I'm going to be working till I'm 90, but I can't. So I could use that money, but you know what? Again, it's probably a scam. So we don't want you to fall victim, just as that treasurer did in Alcona County, and as many others have fallen victim as a result of this type of scam. Again, if you notice, there's a pattern here. We have people that are playing on our emotions, whether it was a charitable organization, those scams, whether it was a phone call with someone pretending to be your grandson or your granddaughter, and even these advance fee scams. They're playing on our emotions and our pocketbooks because they're trying to get what's in our pockets and what's in our bank accounts and use it to their advantage. Another example, have any of you heard of the mystery shoppers, the jobs? Raise your hand, anybody? Okay. You've probably seen ads in the paper, right? Or you may have seen them on the internet. Same thing. What they're trying to do, a mystery shopper number one is a person that will go into a store and basically they're surveying the store, checking things like customer service, organization, so on and so forth, and then they're reporting back to a company or a business. Okay, they're actually employees. But what happens is before you ever do the work, the business or the company that has just hired you to do this, become this mystery shopper, has just sent you a check in the mail. And they're asking you to cash that check and do what? Send them back a portion of that money that they just sent you. You know, I have to scratch my head on that. Why? Because I can't remember ever working for anyone where I received a check before I performed the work. Have any of you? I didn't think so. I recall working 2.5 weeks or 2 weeks prior to getting my first check from an employer. So why is it that you're hired by a company and then they pay you or send you a check and then ask you to cash that check before you've ever done the work, and then they're asking you to send them a portion back? Why didn't they just send you a check less whatever they wanted you to send back to them? Doesn't make sense, does it? I received an email message from someone that received one of these mystery shopping. Supposedly she was hired by this company as a mystery shopper. They did in fact send her a check. But in the email message that they sent her, they asked her to send $200 back to the business. And then they gave her the name and the address of another individual that was hired as well, and they asked her to send them $1,200. Does that seem strange to you? If I have an employer, why isn't my employer sending money to that individual instead of sending me a check as another employee and asking me to cash it, send money back to my employer, and then send money to another employee that lives in another state? So at the end of the day, let's say I received a check for $2,000. I'm an employee. I just received a check for $2,000. I cash a check. My employer, the person that hired me, asked me to send them $500. But they also asked me to send another employee in another state $1,300. So guess who's out of $2,000? The person, me, the person that cashed that check. Doesn't make sense because it's a scam. It's considered to be an advance fee scam. Again, you send me money and then you'll collect your winnings or you'll get more. Scams, and there are other variations of that scam as well. Now, one of the things that we can do to reduce some of this junk mail, some of these letters that we're getting in the mail, pre-approved credit and insurance offers, is by registering on the Do Not or Direct Marketing Association list. You have a form to be able to do that in this handout that you already have. There's also an opt-out number that shows on the very first page of the handout that says avoid phone and mail scams that you have in your possession at this time. If you call that toll-free number or go online to opt out, or you have the do not call list number as well, but in the handout you have all of that information so that you can stop getting these pre-approved credit and insurance offers and stop getting a lot of this national junk mail. The DMA listing or Direct Marketing Association form that you have in your handout, it will cost you $1 to have your name removed from that list so you can stop getting it. I know, and you know what? Prior to last year, you could actually do it for free. Now it costs us $1 to do it. The do not, pardon me?
Why does it have to be by your credit card? Why couldn't you just, give it $1 check? I don't like giving stuff out on my credit card.
I know, but you know what, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that I'd like to say, this is basically just information to try to better educate you on a lot of things that are happening today. But the way a lot of businesses are set up, we either have to give them our credit card numbers today and the numbers off the back, whether we, you know, if you place an order for something over the telephone, you have to give them your credit card number. You know, you may have seen an advertisement on TV and you wanted to buy something, and when you call them, you have to give them your credit card number. So at least this is something that we're trying to do, and it's a reputable website that you can go to, or you can call this particular toll-free number to prevent from getting a lot of this junk mail, to reduce your chances of becoming victims of a lot of these scams and schemes, and to reduce the junk mail coming to your house. Have you noticed that you get more junk mail than you do things that you really have, you know, than statements of people that you do business with today? I don't know about you, but I was excited to find out about this information so I could stop getting all the junk mail. But more importantly, so that I can prevent myself from becoming a victim of identity theft or some of these phone and mail scams. And these are the tools utilized to do that. They do work. Now, one of the questions that I meant to ask you all earlier was this. How many of you in the room have actually signed your names up or your telephone numbers on the do not call list? Raise your hand. Quite a few of you.
Long ago.
How many of you are still getting telemarketing calls? Okay, now let me say two things. Number one, when you register your telephone numbers on the do not call list, whether it's your cell phone, and by the way, if you have a cell phone and you haven't registered it on the do not call list, you can also add your cell phone numbers to the do not call list as well. But one of the things I wanted to say was this. If you are still receiving telemarketing calls on your home phone or whichever number that you placed on those lists, there could be a reason why. And let me ask this question. Have any of you, since you registered your telephone numbers on that do not call list, have any of you entered a prize drawing or a sweepstakes drawing by chance? Not one? Okay. And I'm sure there's some of you in this room that have. When you do that, you have just recirculated your information all over again, because your information can be sold from those companies to an affiliate or another business. So you have to be careful when you do that. Plus, when you register your number on the do not call list, it doesn't mean that you will never receive a political call or a call from a charitable organization, because you can still get them. It's to prevent you from getting calls from telemarketers. That's the purpose of the do not call list and registering your telephone numbers on that list, just so that you know, okay? Yes, ma'am.
Most of the calls I get are usually, they claim they're charitable. But the other night I had one that was nearly 9 o'clock at night. Was there any time that this person asked if there was any mail in the family or in the house at the time? And me not thinking, I said no. You know,
Okay.
and then I began to wonder what kind of information they got.
Okay. Her question is there a cutoff, basically, cutoff time by which a person, a telemarketer, can call you? Because she got a phone call when an individual was asking her if there was a mail in the house. Now, at the particular time when she received the call came in at approximately 9 o'clock at night. I will have to find out if that's the cutoff. I think it's somewhere around 9 o'clock at night, but to me that's too late for anyone to be contacting me about anything, even if it's a survey. And be very careful about, again, giving out any of your information over the telephone, because we don't know if that's someone just trying to see if there's a man in our household, for the women in the room.
What I did is I hit star 69 to see where the call coming from, but I didn't have anything with me to write it down.
Okay.
And then it rang, but busy.
Okay.
Probably moved on to another call.
Okay. Okay, she doesn't know where the call came from, but one of the other things is simply this. Even if you're still getting calls and you've registered your number on the do not call list, ladies and gentlemen, during that phone call, you can request that that business places you on their do not call list. If for some reason after 31 days they continue to call you, you can file a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission, and again, that information is indeed included in your handout. Yes, sir.
How do you do that with a fax machine?
Pardon me?
How do you do that with a fax machine?
You're getting them over the fax machine.
Yep.
There's a way to stop that too, and I'll have to find out for you if you want to see me after.
Oh, what I've been doing, I made 10 black pages and send it back to the number.
Do you? His question was, how do you stop from getting telemarketers sending you information over your fax machine? I will have to find out for you, but has that worked so far? He said he sends them back 10 black pages.
That page says take my number off.
This says take his number off, so, okay, good. We'll talk about that afterwards. Thank you for bringing that up too. I need to find that out for you. Okay, so please make sure you register your information. Again, on the do not call list, on the Direct Marketing Association website, or send the form in, as well as the opt-out. Now, if you become a victim, what you want to do is report it to the authorities immediately. Also, make sure you contact your financial institutions. And the other thing that you want to do if you're a victim of an advance fee scam is contact the Federal Trade Commission. If you believe that you've been scammed by a business or you have an issue with a business, please file a complaint with our office, the Consumer Protection Division. Contact the Better Business Bureau and your local police department. And please, ladies and gentlemen, I know that oftentimes if we're scammed by someone, we don't really want to talk about that because sometimes we feel embarrassed. Please, tell somebody. Make sure you share that with a family member or friend so that they don't become a victim either. Or when you come here to the senior center, share that information with your neighbors here so that they don't become victims. We want to know about it as well so that we publish what's called consumer alerts every single year, 10 to 20 consumer alerts. And what we do is we warn citizens across the state about these scams and schemes. So we want to make sure that others aren't victimized as well. So please let someone know about it. Report the crime. Remember, law enforcement has absolutely no idea that you and I are victims of crimes unless we report it. They don't know. So they can't begin to try and bring justice to any of us or our situations unless we notify them. So it's important that we do that, okay? And again, I hope you're able to you're more aware of these scams and schemes. You know of additional ways to protect yourselves or avoid becoming victims, as well as actions to take, because you have information in the handout that you've received. I also have another handout that you don't have at this particular time, but I'll have them up here on the table, that talks about things that you can do to protect yourselves from becoming victims of identity theft, as well as who to contact if in fact you are a victim of identity theft. Identity theft, ladies and gentlemen, is not going to go away. It's still the fastest growing crime in America today. It's a white collar crime, and we want you to have the resources available to you, the numbers, and know who you need to call in the event that you're a victim. One of the key things that I can tell you to do, again, just the same thing with these phone and mail scams, is simply this: when someone calls you over the phone, whatever you do not give out any of your personal identifying information over that telephone, via the internet, or in a letter. Because these criminals are looking for your names, your addresses, telephone numbers, social security numbers, banking information, employment information, driver's license numbers. mother's maiden names. They're looking for that information. If you just happen to be in a doctor's office and they ask you for your social security number and you don't have your card to show them so they can photocopy it, don't say it out loud while you're standing there. Write it on a piece of paper, slide it to the receptionist, and have her give it back to you and you destroy it, or watch that person destroy your social security number that you just wrote down prior to you having your seat and waiting to be called on. If you're standing in line someplace and you have your credit card out and you're about to present it for your purchase to the cashier, make sure that that there isn't anyone standing around you or near you that has their cell phone out. Because cell phones today, like the one that I carry, and probably a lot of you, have cameras on them. A person could be pretending to make a phone call, but in actuality, they're taking a picture of your cell phone or your credit card. When you go to restaurants or when you're at the pump and you're paying for your gas or you're paying for your food with a credit card, make sure that you get your receipts. Because there still are some places, businesses that we go to today, where our entire credit card number is printed out on those receipts along with our names and along with our expiration dates as they appear on the front of our credit cards or ATM cards with the credit card logos on them. If someone happens to come up behind you and you leave it and it has all that information on it, it's very easy for them to take it to a store and use that information and charge fraudulent charges on your credit card in a very short period of time. Okay?
What if you only have your 4 numbers on it? Like a lot of times they'll send the last
If you only
4
have the
numbers.
last 4, that's fine, but you still want to get a copy of that receipt, because what are we doing every single month? We're comparing those receipts to our statements, and that's something else that's very key. Let's make sure that we are looking at all of our statements every single month. And that was a good question. Her question was simply this: what if the receipt only has the last 4 digits on it of your credit card, wherever you used it? That's a good thing, because that's what's supposed to be on it. There was a law passed in 2005 that said only the last 4 digits of your credit card number should appear on your receipts. However, I actually know of a place that I visit a few times a year that has a credit card machine that has not been reprogrammed, and it shows my entire credit card number on it, along with my name and along with my expiration date. Okay? Still get a copy of your receipt. And we should be, and most of us probably are anyway, but they can't really do anything with it if it only has the last 4 digits. They need all of them, okay? But still get a hold of that. Because in checking our statements every single month to make sure that we're not victims of identity theft, that there aren't monies taken out of our accounts, we need to be comparing those and not doing what I used to do. I used to, before I found out about identity theft and started educating others, I used to simply look at my balance when I received my credit card statement and I'd write a check. Not anymore. You know why? Because I'm not going to, and I'm sure you don't want to, but correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want anyone having a good time at my expense. How about you? I didn't think so. But if we're not taking those receipts and comparing them to the itemized bill that we're receiving, that could very well be what we're doing. And not only should you be checking your checking and savings account statements as well as your credit card statements, check your stock statements as well. I assisted a victim of identity theft a few years ago, and we found that an individual that stole her identity literally cashed in her stocks. So don't take those statements for granted either. We have to look at everything thoroughly. And the sooner we find out if we're victims, the sooner we can get our money back. Okay? Sir, you have a question?
No, I recently have received some of these foreign gifts of
Okay.
I was told by the post office, you bring those into the postmaster, they want to follow the code. And I had to, he was in, picking up one that had been there before. And another one come in, I turned around and gave him a clear, had a hot one. It's right there right now. And this code, they checked the code that it was supposed to be cashed under or written under, didn't exist.
Okay, so you received another, what was it, a money order or
Yeah.
a card or something?
Any of these that are foreign,
Oh, the foreign ones.
yeah, particularly the foreign ones, there, and then Australia, Hong Kong, Netherlands.
So you're saying that any offers or checks or things that we receive in the mail, and they say that we've won something and they're from another country, the post office wants to know about those? Is that what you're saying, so that they can trace them? So
Take them to the
okay,
postmaster.
take them to the postmaster? Okay, and they'll take care of them. So anything that you receive that might be a foreign lottery or checks coming from someone from another country, he's saying in his experiences that the postmaster would like to get their hands on that so they can investigate it as well. Okay? Now the other thing, any other questions about address issues that you and I might face, whether it's under health care, financial matters, consumer protection, or veteran affairs. One of the things that I found under the healthcare topic, for example, is I was able to print off a do not resuscitate order form. It also has a durable medical power of attorney. It also talks about how to choose a nursing home and where to go and things to look for in the event that you have to check out that information or you have to do research for another family member, or maybe you're helping a friend. Financial matters, it talks about scams. It talks about things like, it helps you understand what reverse mortgages are about and what they're like, things to look for in case there's a scam involved. Consumer protection clearly talks about things that I've shared with you today. Things like phone and mail scams, identity theft, other things that consumers need to know and or be aware of, they too can be found, and information under Veterans Affairs as well. I would strongly urge those of you that use the internet, and for those of you that don't use the internet, that's okay too, because I would be willing to guarantee you that you have someone in your family or a friend that would be more than happy to go out on the website and look up information for you to assist a lot of the issues that you and I might face. So don't feel discouraged if you don't use the internet. But again, it's a great resource and or clearinghouse of information.